It's called Bubble. He was this brown, fluffy, like, ball of wool. And he had, like, kind of green welly boots on, and then he had little arms. He had really big round eyes. He was quite small, yeah. I only ever talked to him when like I was kind of bored, and so when I talked to him, it was just me because I was like his voice. I'd control what he said back to me, so he was just someone to talk to. He's basically just like me because he was me. I remember once I was doing my homework, I got really distracted like talking to him, and then he was like, "Come on, you've got to do your homework." But like obviously it was just me telling myself I had to do my homework, but he was saying it. And like other times when I was like annoyed or like angry or something, I'd talk to him. It was always in my bedroom, really. I mean, sometimes at school, like on my desk sometimes, but it was normally in my bedroom. Yeah, he was always there when like I needed something. It was never really a pointless conversation. If like I got told off in class, I remember like he would be like, "That was really, you should not have done that," and stuff. I imagined him first and then thought it'd be cool if he like came out of the paper. I remember when I first drew it, it would just be sat on my desk, so then when I was doing homework he would pop out of it. But at school obviously I didn't have that drawing, so he didn't pop out of it at school, he just kind of appeared. I stopped like having him as my imaginary friend when I was like really young, and then once in year 6 I got into quite a lot of trouble in year 6 and I got suspended.
Why?
I punctured her bike tyre with a pin. She was like my best friend.
Really?
Anyway, yeah, I'd totally forgotten about him for ages since I was 8, and then in year 6 I found the drawing again, and like it was the day I was suspended. I remember him talking to me when like, because I was really upset, and he was just talking to me, so yeah.
It started after the age of 7, because at the age of 7 I lost my mother, and it only started after then. Probably from the age of 8, 9 until I was probably about 16. They didn't have names as such because they were actually not that imaginary. They were actually people that I knew that I would take on as imagining what they would be in my life. Well, what I would do is I would usually go to tea with friends' houses, and they'd usually be friends that I was quite close with. Then I would imagine what it would be like to have that mother as my mother. Usually friends' houses, or actually could be family as well when going on holiday away from the home. They would be warm and loving, and they would kind of cuddle me and look after me and feed me. Well, there was a memorable moment for me, but whether she would remember it or not, I don't know. For me, it was quite memorable because I actually admitted this to one of the mothers that I wanted to be my mother. And I did actually admit it to her when I was in my 20s. Well, I just told her about it, really, but she was fine. I would just imagine what it would be like for her to be my mother, to look after me. So I would maybe actually when I did go to bed, I would imagine what it would be like if she had put me to bed. But not in my life, as it were, so I would be going into her life. I went through a few. So I remember my best friend at the time must have been when I was probably about 11. And I used to love going to her house because it was so cosy and she was a very loving mother. And I used to imagine what it would be like to be part of that family as a daughter. She was very homely, she was very generous, she wasn't particularly attractive, but she was very homely. She was quite religious, actually, a Christian family. She was just very kind and warm, quite round. And she had a good sense of humour. She always baked nice cakes and things, and the smell of the lovely cooking and the baking. And yeah, I just like to imagine what it would be like for her to be my mum. Yeah.
My name's Annabelle Williams. I'm 20 years old and I am a student.
So let's start with how old you were when you had your imaginary friend.
I was at primary school, so I was 6.
Okay. What was your imaginary friend called?
Daisy. That was also my guinea pig's name. Very imaginative child.
Well,
it
it
looked
was,
exactly like Simba from The Lion King, because when we were younger, we used to go to my granny's house and she lived in the middle of the forest, and we used to watch The Lion King over and over again, me and my friend Hattie, and then we would wander around the woods, and then when I came back to school, I was like, wow, the Lion King's so cool. And I had this friend called Stacia D. Me and Stacia D had our lions, and they kind of just, like, we used to run around with them and pretend like that the top playground was like a savannah. No, they were like quite little, like cute, like rabbit sized. At school.
School was
school. And they were never, maybe like once or twice, but mainly just when I was at school, like in the playground. I think sometimes when I was in lessons, I'd like pretend to be petting it or something. I think maybe because we were a bit bored. Yeah, and so like in the playground when we couldn't think of anything else to do, we were like, oh yeah, Daisy's here. Woo, let's go run around the playground. Yeah, I think she wasn't very imaginative. I think hers was like Simba or Nala or something. No, but you know, Daisy. Very imaginative name right there. But the only thing I've got in my head, I remember we had like these wooden table things, and we would just sit there and eat our lunch, and they would be sitting next to us, just
petting.
Yeah, petting away.
Yeah.
Like kind of looking at it, feeling happy, which obviously wasn't there, but you kind of see it, don't you? You like see it there, but it's not there. But you know it's not there, but you still think it's there. Yeah, it was great. Just look at it. It's so cute.
I had my imaginary friend when I was 7 to 10.
Okay.
Is that really old, isn't it?
No.
When it was like when they're 5. Me, it's like when I'm 12. I think it was just called Air. Okay, so basically it was something we invented with some friends, so it wasn't like just me, but we were all part of a group and we all had an element, which is air, earth, fire, water. So we had like all these little things we did every day, and then basically we sort of all got into it, and just like I'd speak to it when I was on the swings. It was only moments where you could feel it, so it was like on the swings you feel the air. I would say like good night to it and stuff, because I lived under the roof and there was a little hole of air, and when I put my hand you could feel the air, so when I touched it I said good night to it and stuff. And we had a little ritual thing. We used to draw patterns in stone, but I don't think we spoke to them all together, so I think I only spoke to it sort of when I was by myself anyway. When I start thinking about it, it's when we changed house. I think my parents were trying to they bought a new house together so that maybe they'd get better together. So it's just around that period that I had this imaginary friend. But this is the tornado story, isn't it? So there was a really bad tornado in France. It must be 2000 or something. The wind was really rough. And I remember I had, my mum annoyed me or something, I'd been at the window and been like, you know, my friend, the wind, you could blow on the house and, do something. Not anything mean, but you could just teach them a lesson. That's awful.
Okay.
And then there was the tornado, and electricity was cut off for weeks. But what's strange about that is I remember that being kind of the breaking point to when I stopped having it. But I can't remember why. I just sort of stopped doing it. Maybe I was a bit frightened or something, I don't know.